Alright guys, and welcome back to Project Race Car. I'm Jack.
And I'm Ollie.
And as you can see, we've got a slightly different filming setup today, given that we're both recording separately from our own houses. But we thought we'd just give you guys a, hopefully, reasonably quick overview on the running costs of the cars that we have. So my Skyline, my Evo, and Ollie's Evo as well.
As Jack just said, we thought we'd create this little video because you might find it informative if you're thinking of buying one, how much it costs to run, how much they cost to service, etc. Because obviously servicing is included in the running costs.
Mm-hmm.
We just thought we'd give you a basic rundown, a little brief overview of what it's like to own one of these cars. Obviously, I haven't had much seat time as such driving my Evo because it spent most of its time in bits. But
it's a running joke.
Dad and exactly. Dad and I. Before I took the car apart, we did do 2 car shows in it. One was at Castle Coombe and one was at where was it? Not Cambridge.
Coventry.
That's it, Coventry. And it used quite a bit of fuel. So from those couple of journeys and also driving around here and using it around our local area, I got a grasp of how expensive it was to run. So that's what I'm going to go off of today. But Jack has got a lot more accurate information for you, so yeah.
I've in the however many years, 3-4 years I've owned my Evo, I've done 20,000 miles I think in it, so it's been well used. The Skyline obviously is fairly new, so that's got a bit less information on that, but still can provide you information on the servicing costs and the fuel and all the other associated costs that come with that. So
I personally wouldn't be looking to buy an Evo to drive them as dailies. I mean, if I lived in the States, different question, because I'd have it immediately mapped to running on E85, and E85 is cheapest chips out there. Petrol is cheapest chips out there as well. So I'd probably quite happily drive a daily, an Evo as a daily. But I wouldn't over here just because when fuel prices pick back up again, it's just not economical to do so. I mean, you did it, but then again...
I did. It's all relative, of course, to whatever situation you're in. You can daily them. For me, it wasn't necessarily the fuel costs that stopped me dailying it. It was a factor, don't get me wrong, but as I said, I put 20,000 miles on it in 3.5 years, I think, or 4 years. So keeping the mileage down on the car for me was more important, because I may sell it at some point. I don't have any plans to, but when that day when that does come, you've got to think about depreciation.
Mileage always does depreciate cars like this.
Yeah,
so.
It's a lot more relevant on cars. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like putting 20,000 miles on a Ferrari 458 or something like that. It's not the same, but it's 100. You don't see many 130, 140,000 mile Evos, put it that way.
So just before we get into the figures about fuel and stuff, we will touch on servicing costs. But how much did your service bits cost for this service, and also what bits did you get?
In terms of servicing costs, I paid about 110 quid for the service stuff for the Skyline. That doesn't include the diff or the gearbox oil, which I'm going to do at a later stage anyway, because I'm going to do a more thorough overhaul. So for this run, we got oil filter, fuel filter, NGK spark plugs, and 10 W60 oil. So that's what's going in.
Thick like treacle.
Indeed, that's what JDM Garage recommended.
You run 540 in your Evo, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that's what JDM Garage recommended Ryan to run in his Skyline as well. But I think it's going to be cost dependent on what you want to buy. I mean, the last bits and bobs that I bought for the Evo before I took it apart, which was fresh gear oil, fresh front diff oil, fresh rear diff oil, because the rear diff is a limited slip, and I bought engine oil and a Mitsubishi OEM filter. If you own an Evo, I would recommend you use nothing but the OEM Mitsubishi filter, because Mitsubishi spent probably quite a lot of time designing that filter. HKS options are great, they probably open a little bit more flow, but the OEM filter works great. From my understanding, pretty much everybody that I know that's got an Evo runs the OEM filter. The exactly. The last service kit that I bought probably cost me around the £150 mark with the filter. The filter's about £12 from OP Oils. The gearbox oil, diff oil, rear diff oil, transfer box oil, and engine oil. Spark plugs I paid £25 for from JDM Garage. They're just NGK Iridiums. MPD wanted something ridiculous for them, so don't buy them from MPD or Eurocar parts for that matter. But it generally varies. I mean, that's sort of a price that you can expect to pay, depending on if you service it yourself. You're just going to be paying for the bits, but if you're obviously paying it for it to be serviced at a garage, generally people with cars like this will take it to a garage that they trust most, because most people with these types of cars don't trust many people with garages because of the type of car it is and stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you take it to a garage that knows what they're doing with it, they will be able to source all of those bits for you. And make sure that it has the proper stuff, and you can also give them the specifications, how much power it's making, what your plans are with the car, and then they can speak to Ross Sport and get the appropriate stuff for. Like, for example, if your engine's forged, you'd probably run a 10W50 as opposed to a 5W40, because a little bit larger gap between the piston to bore clearance with a thinner oil would give you piston slap. So it all depends on what you're running with the car. If you've got a bone stock Evo, go for the standard 5W40, 5W30 oil. Nothing wrong with that at all. So it varies in cost, but you can expect to pay £400 if you're getting it done at a garage, or £150 if you're doing it yourself, or even less than that depending on what you want to buy.
Obviously it depends on the car as well. What you were just talking about there for your Evo was obviously Ollie's got an Evo 5 if you haven't seen it. I have an Evo 8 FQ320, and I did actually take it to Engine Tuner in Plymouth to have it serviced a couple of years back, and I think they charged me £350 for everything, including the labour.
Sounds about right for a service.
Which, for a major service, isn't actually that bad. You know, when you look at VW for a major service, they're probably going to charge you £370, £380 anyway for a Golf. So, you know, as long as you take it to the right place and know what they're doing.
Main dealers will always charge more.
Indeed, yeah. Anyway, we're waffling on a bit too much, probably. We should probably get into the actual nuts and bolts of the running costs.
Let's get into the fueling costs and insurance and other bits and bobs. I mean, obviously, insurance is going to vary, but we can probably touch on tax and fuel, because that's going to be more or less the same to our viewers. Insurance,
at least in the UK,
is obviously age and stuff based. Yeah, at least in the UK, yeah. You can generally expect for import cars to cost about $250 to $330 in terms of tax. I know the Evo 10s are a hell of a lot more expensive. The Evo 10s are like $550 a year
for the UK cars. They are, yeah.
Yeah, for the UK cars.
It's worth touching. I'm pretty sure, this, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure all JDM imports are classed as light goods vehicles. Yes. And they all come out at 260. It's 260 or 265, whatever it is. Obviously, it goes up per year, but it's around about the 260 mark. So it depends, obviously, if you're getting a UK car or car that was made in the country wherever you live, or you're actually getting imported.
So there's a difference that you can see right here. Jack's R34 to insure, because it's an import, is 260. My Evo 5, because it's an import, is 260 as well. But your Evo 8 is how much?
330, because it is a UK car.
It's a UK spec car. So the UK have their own way of taxing vehicles depending on their CO2 output and pollution levels, and that's generally ultimately what, like, there's a band for, if it produces this much, this is how much it costs, and that's how the UK works it by. Yeah,
the tax system's a bit weird, because it is I think it's like capped depending on what year it is as well, because we know that Evos aren't good on MPG, but it's the same as my
MX-5. And they're also not great for CO2 as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
CO2 I meant, not MPG, but it's the same cost to tax my Evo as it is to tax my 1.8 MX-5 with 140 brake or something. So the tax system's a bit weird, basically. Weird. Yeah, and the Skyline's even cheaper than both of them. So
So you may find whatever if you're looking to get one of these cars, your tax may be slightly different, but that it's more or less going to be around about that. Fuel then, how much does the Evo take to fill it up to the top?
God, you're asking me now. I haven't driven the car for 2.5 months.
Do you reckon it's got the same? Does it take about 40 or 50 quid?
It's a 55 litre tank, I think.
So it's the same size as the Lancer then, so about 40 or 50 quid.
I'm pretty sure it's 55 litres. So we're putting in back when fuel prices were, what say I put Momentum in it, 99. So 126, something like that. It was. I think it cost me from empty 65 quid probably for a tank. 65, 70, depending on how empty it actually was. Because I don't know. This is an interesting point actually. I don't know if you remember from your Evo, but I'm pretty sure like most petrol lights come on at a gallon remaining, right? I'm pretty sure the Evo is 2 gallons because you just run out of fuel within the space of 20 meters. So
the Evos are not good on fuel. I mean, I went from I can't remember what services it is. I went from one services on the M5 to another one. I can't remember where it was now. It's escaped my mind.
It's literally the worst piece of information ever.
I know. It was about a 220 mile gap between the two services,
right?
And it used the fuel light came on during those two services, so they're not that great on fuel. So I think yours was getting about 220 to a tank, wasn't it? 240 to a tank?
Somewhere between 200 and 250, usually around 220, 230 miles. That is not kilometres, obviously, to a tank, which. It's okay. Like for when I was driving every day, it was quite annoying because I spent most of my life in the petrol station. But now
that's where the Evos live.
Well they do. Yeah, exactly. Moving on to the Skyline, it's broadly the same. To be honest, I think the fuel tank's the same size. I'm not 100% sure.
I thought they were bigger.
It might be slightly bigger. I haven't actually filled it up that many times, to be honest.
5 litres.
It might be 60 litres. I'll have to double check that, but. I can't remember the last time I actually filled it up from empty, to be honest. But again, it gets around 18 to 20 mpg, really. It's got a slight boost leak at the moment. I don't know if that's going to... it might negatively affect it. So. It
will affect it, yeah.
So it might do a little bit more than that. But
fuel price as well, obviously, depends on... And mileage depends on how you drive them.
For sure.
Very heavily depends on how you drive them. I mean, I've had my Evo as low as about 3 mpg.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, generally when you take these cars out, because then I wouldn't recommend dailying them. They're generally the type of car that you take out and give a good thrashing, so they're not going to be great on fuel anyway. So, if you're looking to buy this type of car, I wouldn't be worried. I wouldn't be in the financial position that you would be worried about miles per gallon with them, because that's not the point of the car. But we're just trying to give you a rough ballpark figure.
Indeed, yeah. So moving on to insurance, I mean, we could probably do a whole video on insurance, at least in the UK anyway.
Don't even get me started. It's freaking ridiculous.
It's very dependent. But the reason we were going to talk about it is because between us, we've got quite a nice dynamic. So I'm 29, and I've been driving since I was 17. So I've never had an accident, touch wood. So that makes a difference.
Rub it in my face now.
Nice little needle there. But obviously, the reason I mentioned that is because how long have you been driving? How old are you?
I've been driving, I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I am 20 at the moment.
At the moment. 20 going on 5. So it is very different trying to insure my car versus him trying to insure my car. Yeah.
Or me trying to insure his car, but yeah.
Indeed. So I think what we're getting at is there's a lot of things that come into it, but age and how long you've had your license definitely are a massive factor. Worth pointing out, like I've got the Skyline on a policy that has, I think, 7 or 8 years no claims now, because that was my main policy. And then I've got my MX-5 on a separate policy which now has 1 year's no claims, and I've just put the Evo on a limited mileage policy, which I think is 1,000 miles a year, garaged, like hardly ever used. So the figures that you're seeing on the screen are relative to me, but it's completely relative to whatever your situation is. But I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I can afford to run all of these cars anyway, but I don't think the insurance figures are actually that bad for the type of car that they are, and obviously they're all modified. The MX-5 is modified as well, so that's on a modified insurance policy, which is actually just came down by about £200. So that's a valid point, actually. So I've just had the MX-5 for a year, and it went on a new policy when I got it with zero years, no claims. Again, worth quickly pointing out, in the UK, the insurance system is really weird, that you insure the person and the car, whereas a lot of other countries are either the person or the car. So we have to have separate no claims per vehicle, per person. It's really weird. So yeah, me owning the car for a year and getting a year's no claims on that brought the insurance down by about £200 a year, which is nothing to be sniffed at. So it makes a massive difference. And the only way I've been able to really do that is by having multiple insurance policies. So I got the most expensive one to insure the Skyline on the mileage that I'm going to be doing in it is on the most heavily discounted policy, if that makes sense, with a number of years no claims and stuff. So,
and then when I went to reinsure my Lancer with 1 year's no claims, it dropped back under £1,000 again, which is nice. And the Evo, obviously rough idea quotes wise, because obviously it's still off the road. It's going to be off the road until next year now because it's not quite done. But it's going to be obviously modifications dependent, because I'm going to have to speak to a few companies about the mods being declared. It's going to be about hopefully just over £1,000. So that I'm going to say is pretty good for a 21-year-old on a car that's in Group 44 on the insurance scale. But we could do a whole other video on insurance, and we probably will. So
if you want to see more information on specifically modified car insurance, give us a shout, because let us know in the comments.
Button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments.
Because if you're interested, we will, or any of the topics we covered today in more detail, we can look at doing videos on those. So anyway, let's just quickly look at the actual numbers, because then that will give you a headline figure of what actually it costs. So you should be seeing the spreadsheet that I've got on the screen. So for me to run the Evo, which is obviously only doing, say, 1,000 miles a year, if that, currently, including the storage costs associated with where it's stored, is £154 a month, which is not bad, right? I mean, it doesn't get driven much, it doesn't get used much, so arguably, maybe it's not a good deal, I don't know, but I like it and I'm going to keep it. So
for now.
For now. Yeah. No, it's planning on staying for the moment, and we're going to do some videos with it as well. It's just a shame that I can't drive it, because I do actually miss it quite a lot after driving it every day for 18 months.
You love it.
But I've got the Skyline at the moment, so I mean, I still can't quite believe I'm in this situation.
Look at this chap here, you know. He's got a 400 horsepower Evo 8 and a freaking R34 Skyline and an MX-5, you know. He's got two of most people's hero Japanese cars. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
It's not a bad position to be in. But yeah, anyway. So
we've got plenty of cars to make content on for you guys.
Exactly. A lot of variety. So moving on to the Skyline, as you can see, it's not actually that much more. The fuel figure is probably slightly off, purely because when I filled this in, I didn't know how many miles. I still don't really know how many miles I'm going to be doing in it, so it's kind of relative. But these figures are per year, by the way. Obviously, the ones here. So yeah, again, £165 a month to run the Skyline with insurance. That's factoring in servicing and MOTs as well. Might be slightly low, that figure. Might need to bump it up slightly, but I'll work that out when it's had all of its services and I know what it's going to cost and whatever. It's always worth working out your daily costs as well, regardless of what you drive, because then you know exactly how much it's going to cost you, and how much more money you have to put into your race car. So that's always nice.
Yeah, and that's what you should always be focusing on: scraping the bottom of the barrel, living on pot noodles, so that you can buy parts for the race car. That is the life. That is the life.
That's what gets me through weekends of overtime.
Okay, that probably, unless you've got anything else you wanted to add, that'll probably do.
Yeah, there was about 25 minutes of talking.
For this instalment, anyway.
25 minutes of talking for about 30 seconds worth of figures, but it's all interesting, right?
If you do like this format, I mean, it's a little bit different. It's not necessarily so much car related, but the content is car related. Then definitely do let us know down in the comments below, because this sort of stuff is easy for us to produce. Of an evening, we can film it, whatever. I mean, obviously we can meet up and film in person now, obviously keeping 2 meters distance, but this sort of stuff is hopefully informative and good for you guys to watch and enjoy, because I mean, this is all the sort of questions that I would want to ask if I was looking to buy one of these cars again. And we can even go into, obviously, if you want to see an episode of like going into depth on insurance and stuff like that, that helps. All we want to do is help as such. If you're thinking of purchasing one of these cars, there's lots of stuff we could sit and talk about. So if you do wanna see more of this sort of format of video, definitely let us know in the comments.
Yeah, if there's anything specific that we haven't covered as well, or anything you'd like to hear in more detail, just let us know. We can, if it's worth it, we can do a video on it.
Yes, so we should probably speak about the affiliation with.
So we've got two things to mention. So if you haven't seen on our Instagram, we have we're helping out Refuel Southwest. They're doing a charity auction to help out NHS key workers in the Southwest, and we have partnered with them to offer a ride to their refuel event in my R34. So if you want to have a chat, so if you want to have a ride in the Skyline, if you want to come for a ride in the Skyline, you can bid on the auction, which again we'll leave down in the description below. There's some other really cool prizes on there, by the way, guys. There's like passenger rides in an F40 and LFA and McLaren.
Oh my god!
There's some really cool stuff on there, so definitely go check out. The
definitely
the other stuff they've got on there. But yeah, if you want to help support the NHS workers, go check it out.
We'll leave
the other thing, indeed. And the other thing to mention is we are now affiliated with Because Race Car Box, because obviously we're YouTubers and that's what everyone does. So if you want to help us out and get some cool detailing gear, check out the link in the description for 10% off, or just use code Project Race Car. Check out.
We were considering maybe even doing something like a giveaway or something when we reach 1,000 followers on Instagram, or say 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think it's going to be a while for YouTube to get there for a bit, but we'll probably do a giveaway at 1,000 followers on Instagram, and we'll probably be giving away one of these Because Race Car boxes, because they are actually really frigging cool. Anyway, I'll let you carry on. Sorry for butting
that's all right. Yeah, I have actually used one of them. I bought one for my girlfriend for Christmas, and she's used it loads. Loves it. So they're really cool. You get really cool gear in it. It's
like a lucky dip.
Yeah, it's like it's a subscription box, so you get little micro bits of detailing gear and whatever, sponges, and it's awesome stuff. But yeah, as I said, if you haven't checked out our Instagram as well, check us out on there, because we post quite a lot on there on the cars, probably every day.
Stuff, so.
Yeah, some stuff that we don't actually include in the YouTube videos. So if you want to see some stuff that we don't include, definitely check us out on there as well. It's we'll put it on the screen, but it's project.racecar.
Anyway, that's it from me, Ollie.
And from me, Jack.
And we'll catch you in the next one.